Welcome to The Short Score, your weekly update of roping news from around the industry, where you can find the latest on the sport from the pro rodeo ranks to the jackpot world. I'm Taylor Vollen, and I'm your host. Happy Saturday, ropers! It's your host, Taylor Vollen. On this bonus Ropin.com tips episode of The Short Score, we have yet another Jake and Clay episode. Today you'll be hearing from Jake and Clay talking about struggles. Don't forget that these clips with Jake and Clay have finally been dropping on Ropin.com gradually. So if you haven't yet, make sure to head on over to Ropin.com today and sign up to watch these videos and so many more other great videos from some of the best in the industry.
Well, in roping, no matter who you are, I mean, nothing's going to last forever in, any kind of partnership like I say, there's different stages of your life, that maybe you're not as committed or maybe you don't have the horses or whatever, but I always felt, I started roping with Alan, and Alan's a good friend of mine, and the split up, that's hard. And I guess you probably always take it personal at first, but you realize that life's going to go on, and God's going to provide no matter what. And for Clay and I, like he said, we always had a chemistry of, we've always roped together and done really well together, and our friendship's always been good. I just always considered, Alan and Clay and Ricky, we were just all like brothers. So that's the way we always kind of treated it. So, but we've all gone through, partnerships, but it just seems like Clay and I have always, not only that, but that was one of the things that we won our world championships, and Jake and Clay, that's always, it's almost like Speed and Rich, or a lot of guys win things together, but it's their names are apart. But we always figured that with the schools and the endorsements and this and that Jake and Clay, we could always make a living doing that. So I mean that's what's the beauty of it now, that we're pretty much semi-retired, but we've always got the name that we can go do the schools and still make a good living. The living's better now than it was then when we were, winning world championships, that we can go do these clinics and buy and sell horses and endorsements and stuff like that.
I would say that in looking back on how I did things, my mentality on what I was trying to do, I was quick to pull the trigger and just go to the next guy that I thought had the best horse, could turn steers, and just, I guess the hardest thing for me is I just wanted to win. I wanted to just dominate. And the hardest part of rodeoing is that you can't do that all the time. You're gonna have, for one reason or another, there's gonna be dips in your peaks and valleys, but I was just wanting to live on the mountaintop, and so really in our partnership, I was the one that didn't stay hooked when, in hindsight, I should have just stayed hooked and just rode it out, and just, because Jake always, whenever I would decide to rope with somebody else, he would get somebody else, and he would just be the same old Jake, and then he'd just be winning. I mean, you're not going to keep him from winning and keep him from. And so then I look back over there, the grass wasn't greener. So then I'm like, well, Jake's just spinning them off just like always. Hey, Jake. And he would always come back and rope with me, But in the hindsight, so in part of that, I'm like, I don't like that part about how I was, or who I am, or what makes me tick that way. But on the other hand, I got to rope with some really cool guys in the process of it too, and build relationships there that I have till this day. And so there was, good and bad, but it all worked out because Jake, you couldn't keep him from being successful no matter who he was roping with either. And so he got to rope with people along the line that he was successful with and have relationships with. And that's just part of the whole rodeo experience, really. I mean, but as far as the breakup part, I was the bad guy, really. I mean, Jake never did me any wrong.
Well, and another thing too, sometimes like that, we've probably all been on that side of being cut or having to cut or whatever. But I honestly think that, it hurts, but it actually probably makes you better, because then you have something to prove, that. And, for me, and it's still to this day, it's a struggle, and I feel as a header, it's a little bit harder. I mean, not saying that the heeler doesn't have to have a good horse. I mean, they have to have, but that doggone head horse is so valuable. I mean, it's just so hard to keep a good head horse. I mean, and to have an advantage in roping, and I was fortunate enough to have a couple, good horses along the way. And, your talent can only take you so far, and that was just, and then after, people see that you've won, the price always goes higher for you, whoever's on top or whatever. And so it's just, well, do I invest, that much money to go try to get it back? Or do I try to have a little less horse and maybe not win as much? And so there's different scenarios that you got to be lucky, to run across one of those horses and not have to pay, $1 million for him. And it's just always an investment with your rig, your horses, how many rodeos you go to. I mean, it's just the economics of it. You're just trying, at the end of the year, that hopefully that you come out of that NFR and man, you end up doing really well. And, if you win a world championship. But the hardest part of this whole thing is the day after that NFR, them other guys out there, they don't care who's the champ. They're going to be the new king of the hill starting January 1 at Odessa, and that race is going to start and it's going to end, at the end of September, and you're going to have just a short period of time to take a breath and regroup, and hopefully you can go NFR, and then now and then, there's a few more events where there's big money. You always had the BFI, and then you had the USTRC. Now you got but they've got the World Series finals on top of the NFR, so you're kind of eliminated from that. But there's, where before you're always having to butt heads with the best ropers in the world, and man, it's a tough gig to try to win every time.